What you're about to hear is not from a movie. This is real. This happened inside the United States Congress in an actual government hearing. And what went down in these few minutes exposes something that should concern every one of us. So let's just sit with this for a moment and walk through it together calmly.
I just have a couple of questions. Are you aware that the law that was written by this Congress makes it clear that members of Congress are entitled to enter any detention?
Representative Crockett, I apologize. I have to run to vote in another committee. Secretary and Mr. Schmidt will chair, and you will get extra 15 seconds. But I apologize for that.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you so much,
Mr. Chairman. Appreciate it.
Are you aware that the law makes it clear that members of Congress are allowed to enter any detention facility at any point in time in which they choose to?
Yes, I'm aware of the visitation and oversight responsibility, and we work every day to try to accommodate members of Congress while taking into account the safety of those individuals that are being detained
be clear,
there.
At any time, correct?
Yes, I understand there's litigation in this area.
No, that's not my question. I'm not asking you about litigation.
Yeah.
I'm asking you what the law is, because let me put it to you this way.
There's an appropriations rider that talks about
correct,
oversight.
and appropriations are law, because you are asking us to appropriate dollars right now for DHS, correct?
Correct.
And if we do that, you would take that as law, correct?
Correct.
Okay, so that is what the law states, yet somehow, myself and another colleague, Congressman Castro, we ended up giving a 7-day notice to the Dilley detention facility because I had actually already gone to El Paso before. And when I went to that facility and I asked them why it was that they were requiring me to do something that specifically my branch of government had dictated was not required, they said it was because of you. They said you were the one that said that they were not allowed to allow us entry unless we gave a 7 days heads up. Is that true?
Yeah. The law specifically states oversight and visitations, and we are working to facilitate those. And we're at that time.
Did you give the instruction that members must give a 7 days heads up or not?
We had a policy in place that allowed us to get.
Were you the one that ordered that policy?
I have a responsibility for ensuring everybody in that facility is going to be safe, and that I have adequate
no, but that's not my question, because the problem, let me tell you why we need to
reclaiming
my time. The reason that I'm talking to you about this policy and you're talking to me about safety is because I did go into the Dilley detention facility. And let me tell you, they're not safe. This is why we need to conduct oversight, because your people continue. In fact, you have lost more lives in detention than anybody else. That is your record right now. So I don't expect that y'all are going to be the ones that are going to be best to keep them safe. This is why we are supposed to conduct oversight and not wait for you to give permission. In fact, after I left the Dilley facility, we were informed of a measles outbreak that was taking place in that facility. And another question I have, are you the one that ordered it to be reopened, because that facility was closed under Joe Biden?
Those facilities were opened with the new administration. I'd have to look and see.
Okay, you're part of the new administration. Were you the one that ordered it to be open is my question.
I would have to see when it was opened, because I wasn't sworn in until 5 days after.
Okay, well, it was reopened in March.
I would have to look at
it was reopened in March of last year.
Well, then I'm sure that contract would have been renewed while I was secretary.
Speaking of contracts, as I have actually, you know what, let me continue on this line of y'all breaking the law. Are you familiar with a child by the name of Liam Ramos?
I am.
All right, so Liam was at this Dilley facility, and it just so happened that we had put in our 7 days notice, and y'all had grabbed him 6 days prior to our visit. So we were able to go and visit Liam. Are you aware of the court order that came down that released Liam from custody?
I am.
And are you aware that the judge said the case has its genesis in an ill-conceived and incompetently implemented government pursuit of daily deportation quotas, apparently even if it requires traumatizing children. This court and others regularly send undocumented people to prison and orders them deported, but do so by proper legal procedures. Are you aware of that?
Yes, and I would disagree with the judge on several points.
I'm sure you would, but can you tell me whether or not you have a law degree?
Father chose to.
Can you tell me whether or not you have a law degree?
If I have what?
A law degree.
No, I do not have a law degree.
And you do understand, because I can go through a bunch of court cases and orders that I disagree with from the Supreme Court, that ultimately, that is the order of the court. That is what you follow, and if you have an issue, you appeal it up, correct?
That is correct.
Okay. The court went on to say, apparent also is the government's ignorance of an American historical document called the Declaration of Independence. 33-year-old Thomas Jefferson enumerated grievances against a would-be authoritarian king over his nascent nation. Among others were, he has sent hither swarms of officers to harass our people. He has excited domestic insurrection among us, for quartering large bodies of armed troops among us. He has kept us among, in times of peace, standing armies without the consent of our legislatures. Are you aware that he wrote that? Do you know that he was writing about ICE that falls under you?
The judge?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. With that, I will yield, but I do have two UCs. The first UC is ICE training was slashed, records show corroborating whistleblower claims from the Washington Post on yesterday.
Without objection.
The second one is FEMA's response to Texas flood slowed by Noem's cost controls. This is out of CNN from July 10th of 2025.
Without objection.
A congresswoman walks into a hearing and asks the DHS secretary one simple question. She says, "Are you aware that the law gives members of Congress the right to enter any detention facility at any time without any prior notice?" The secretary responds by saying they work to accommodate members of Congress while keeping safety in mind. And on the surface, that sounds reasonable. It sounds professional. But here's the thing. She wasn't asking about accommodation. She was asking about the law. Because the law is clear. It is written directly into appropriations legislation, the very funding bills that keep the Department of Homeland Security running. And yet, members of Congress were being told they needed to give 7 days notice before visiting these facilities. Now just pause and think about what 7 days actually means in this context. 7 days is enough time to transfer detainees. It's enough time to clean up conditions. It's enough time to make sure that whatever you don't want anyone to see simply isn't there when they arrive. The entire purpose of oversight is that it catches reality, not a prepared version of it. And when you require a week's warning before any visit, you've already defeated the point. But this wasn't just a legal argument for her. She had actually been there. She visited the Dilley detention facility in Texas. And she looked the secretary in the eye and said, "You have lost more lives in detention than anybody else. That is your record." And she wasn't speaking loosely. The current administration has faced repeated and documented criticism over deaths in immigration detention. And right after her visit to that very facility, a measles outbreak was reported inside. A measles outbreak in a government-run detention center in 2025. And this is exactly why oversight matters. Because when officials have a week to prepare for your arrival, you don't see what's actually happening. You see what they want you to see. Then she brings up a name. Liam Ramos, a child. Liam was being held at the Dilley facility. And because the Congresswoman had submitted her 7-day notice as required, the government transferred Liam out 6 days before her scheduled visit. They moved a child to prevent a member of Congress from seeing him. But a federal court intervened. The judge released Liam and wrote something in his ruling that is worth reading slowly. He said, "This case has its roots in an ill-conceived and incompetently implemented government pursuit of daily deportation quotas. Apparently, even if it requires traumatizing children." Those words, traumatizing children, were written by a federal judge, not a critic, not an opinion columnist, a sitting federal judge in an official court ruling. And then the Congresswoman does something quiet and precise. She asks the secretary, "Do you have a law degree?" He says no. And then she reads further from that same court ruling where the judge himself reached back to the Declaration of Independence, to Thomas Jefferson's original list of grievances against a king who sent officers to harass people, who kept standing armies without the consent of legislators, who imposed his will without accountability. The judge drew that comparison deliberately. And the secretary's response was that he disagreed with the judge. And that's the moment that stays with you. A federal court has ruled. A child was traumatized. A facility had a disease outbreak. Members of Congress were blocked from doing their legally mandated job. And the response from the person responsible is, I disagree. Here's what I want to leave you with. Wherever you stand on immigration, wherever you fall on the political spectrum, this conversation is about something more fundamental than policy. It's about whether the people in power are subject to the same laws they enforce on everyone else. It's about whether oversight is real or just a word we use. It's about whether a child in government custody has any protection at all when the adults responsible for that protection decide the rules don't apply to them. These are not comfortable questions, but they are the right ones to ask. And asking them calmly, clearly, and without looking away is the only way any of this ever gets better.